Welcome to this explainer. Today, for AZ HOA Watch and the Arizona HOA Transparency Project, we are taking a deep dive into an ongoing real-world legal battle. And honestly, this case perfectly illustrates the absolute labyrinth of HOA governance disputes. If you've ever lived in a community governed by a homeowners association, or if you follow housing law at all, this is going to be incredibly revealing for you.
So let's start with the big, practical question that this entire case revolves around. Can an HOA actually block your emails and restrict your access to community records right when you are asking them for help? It sounds like it should be a simple yes or no answer, but as we are about to see through the actual court documents, it is anything but simple.
Quick heads up before we really get going. This explainer is strictly public record education and commentary. It's not legal advice, okay? We're analyzing an active, living case based entirely on the filings and exhibits submitted to the court. We are absolutely not taking sides here. Instead, we're using these documents to impartially break down the legal theories, the evidence, and the real-world takeaways for homeowners, board members, and attorneys.
All right, here's our roadmap for untangling this whole shebang. We'll start with the human conflict, move into the paper trail, look at the core legal issues, discuss what the court actually decided, and finally, wrap up with the major lessons for homeowners, boards, and attorneys.
Let's jump right into Section 1, the human conflict, a dispute over mold and windows. To ground ourselves, let's look at who is actually involved here. The case is Sandra Rodriguez versus the Gardens Gilbert Community Association. It also includes Focus HOA Management, their personnel, and the HOA's legal counsel, Augustus Shaw IV. This is currently playing out in the Maricopa Superior Court and the Arizona Court of Appeals. What started as a simple architectural and maintenance request completely ballooned into a massive dispute over records access, retaliation, negligence, and discrimination. Right now, it's an active case that's been partially remanded by the appellate court.
You can see the human element right here in the plaintiff's amended complaint. Sandra Rodriguez, a single mother, was basically just seeking remediation for toxic mold and water leaking through her windows. But according to her filings, instead of getting help or just standard processing for her requests, she claims she ran into a coordinated pattern of retaliation. She alleges the HOA and its management weaponized fees, violations, and procedural roadblocks against her. It really shows how a routine neighborhood maintenance issue can spread like wildfire into a massive civil rights lawsuit if communication breaks down.
Moving right along to Section 2, the paper trail, escalation and evidence. This timeline is wild because it shows the chronological escalation perfectly. On December 21, 2023, the homeowner formally requests financial and governance records. Just 2 weeks later, on January 4, 2024, the HOA's attorney allegedly advises management to block her emails. Then, in March 2024, after the lawsuit was already filed, there's a sudden bulk upload of delayed HOA meeting minutes to the community portal. Fast forward, and an appellate court steps in to reverse and remand previous dismissals. You see how fast a basic request for transparency turned into full-blown appellate court intervention? Now, look at this evidence regarding the online portal. The plaintiff showed the court that essential meeting agendas, minutes, and financial reports from 2022 and 2023 were completely missing. They were allegedly uploaded in clustered batches, but only after she filed her civil complaint. And to make matters worse, she claims her personal access to this portal remained restricted the whole time, literally shutting her out from participating in her own community's governance. And wow, this exhibit is a massive point of contention. This is an email allegedly from the HOA's attorney to the management company. The text says, and I quote, "We can try to sue her tomorrow based on her reaction to the letter. The good news is, since you are blocking her emails, the harassment should cease." The plaintiff is using this exact document to argue there was a deliberate, coordinated strategy of retaliation and suppression under the Fair Housing Act and HOA transparency laws. This one document is the absolute cornerstone of her claim that this wasn't just routine management, but intentional misconduct. Which brings us to Section 3, core legal issues, tort versus contract.
So, we've got a very clear line drawn in the sand here. The plaintiff argues that the HOA, the management, and the attorney breached independent statutory duties. We're talking state transparency laws and the Federal Fair Housing Act, committing intentional torts like retaliation and discrimination. On the flip side, the defendants are using contract law as their main shield. They argue that the CC&Rs, the covenants, conditions, and restrictions, are strictly a contract. Under Arizona law, they say they owe no independent legal or fiduciary duty to the homeowner beyond what's on that paper, which means any tort claims should just be thrown out. Now, to connect the dots between the management company and the HOA itself, the plaintiff brings in a legal concept called respondeat superior. It's a fancy term, but let's break it down. It basically means an employer or principal, like the Gardens Gilbert Community Association, can be held legally responsible for the wrongful acts of its agents, like Focus HOA Management or the board president, as long as they were acting within the scope of their jobs. The plaintiff is essentially saying the HOA can't just wash its hands of what its hired guns do.
All right, moving to Section 4, what the court decided. Remands and reversals. So early on in the lower superior court, the homeowner actually took some heavy losses and faced significant dismissals. But then, the Arizona Court of Appeals stepped in. As you can see from this quote, the appellate court explicitly reversed the dismissal of the plaintiff's negligence and gross negligence claims and sent them back down for further proceedings. On top of that, they recognized the HOA board president as a proper defendant because of her alleged direct involvement. This ruling breathed totally new life into the plaintiff's case, proving that courts might actually look past the strict wording of a contract when intentional retaliation is on the table. Let's look at Section 5, Lessons for Homeowners, Red Flags and Evidence. Based on the exact evidence that swayed the appellate court, here's a practical checklist for any homeowner. First, meticulously track the dates of every single maintenance and architectural request you submit. Second, document, like take actual screenshots when meeting agendas and minutes vanish from your community portal. Third, keep hard records if you're suddenly locked out of the portal or if your emails start bouncing back. Fourth, be super observant. Do fines or enforcement actions magically appear only after you complain? And finally, if you need records, request them formally by citing your state's specific transparency statutes. Check out this document right here. This is the plaintiff's formal written demand for financial and governance records from December 2023. By putting this in writing and citing the specific Arizona revised statute, the subsequent alleged refusal by management became undeniable foundational evidence in court. A clear paper trail is quite literally a homeowner's absolute best defense. Finally, we've arrived at Section 6, Board and Attorney Lessons, the cost of aggression. Look, the defense heavily argued that they were just enforcing a standard contract, but the appellate court reviving these claims is a massive wake-up call. When lawsuits allege that boards or their attorneys use tactics like blocking emails or delaying document disclosures, it opens them up to massive legal exposure. We're talking potential personal liability for board members and serious ethical scrutiny for lawyers. At the end of the day, transparent compliance is always going to be less expensive than aggressive suppression. Which leaves us with this final thought to chew on. If an HOA is truly just a contractual entity, at what exact point does poor management, locking portals, and blocking emails cross the line into a civil rights violation? Now remember, this case is still actively pending and isn't a final binding precedent yet, but it is forcing the courts to draw that exact line, and the outcome is going to ripple through neighborhoods for a very long time. Thanks so much for joining me, and hey, keep paying close attention to the paper trails in your own community.